Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our video conference this morning. We're very happy that you've all joined us today. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this presentation, you will not see any video. You should see slides a presentation that we will click through, but there will be no video of the speakers this morning, just for you to know. So welcome from Boston. We're so happy that you've joined us for our first ever International Parent Video Conference. We hope that you find this information in the presentation helpful. A couple of logistical notes. The chat feature of this program is currently active. This means that you can feel free to type any questions you may have using the chat feature in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Please note, however, we will not answer the questions until the end of the presentation. So we ask that you maybe wait to type in your questions until the end of the presentation. We will do our best to answer all of the questions, but if we do run out of time, please do feel free to email any remaining questions to parents@neu.edu. If you have any basic technical issues, please let us know by using the chat feature in the bottom left-hand corner. Just write your issue in, and we will do our best to take care of that. Also, for your convenience and for those parents who were unable to join us today, we will be emailing everyone a copy of this presentation in the coming weeks. So please be looking for that as well in your email. And without any further delays, we'll go ahead and get started. So you see a couple of pictures of the two of us who are speaking with you today. My name is Amy Wooldridge. I'm representing the International Student and Scholar Institute here at Northeastern. I'm responsible for planning the orientation and cultural programming for our international student population.
And hello, my name is Susan Brown, and I'm the Associate Director of Parent Programs and Services, and I will be meeting you all in August and working with your new students for their orientation. So this morning we're going to be talking about a variety of different topics, but I want to just go over, before we begin, we'd like to give you an overview of the goals of the session. So first we're going to talk a little bit about our office's missions, Amy's and mine. As she said, she's from the International Student Office and Scholar Office, and I'm from the Parent Programs Office. We're going to speak a little bit about our parent philosophy and how we work with parents here at Northeastern University. And then we're going to talk about some of the next steps, what you can expect in the next month. Some of it being orientation, moving and packing your student, supporting your student during this time, and cultural transition. We're also going to speak a little bit about living on campus and some of the resources available to you and your students. And then I know many of you have questions about health insurance. We're going to talk briefly about health care in the United States and what that involves. And then we're going to take some time to give you reminders and important dates of upcoming events happening in the month of August and early September. And then finally, as Amy said, we will allow some time for questions in the answer session.
So for those of you that may not have seen this before, we just wanted to remind everyone about Northeastern's mission. And the mission is to educate students for a life of fulfillment and accomplishment, and to create and translate knowledge to meet global and societal needs. So for a quick overview of mine and Susan's office, we'll give you a little bit of information about each office respectively. The International Student and Scholar Institute is located very centrally on the Northeastern campus. We're located in 405 L Hall. Your students will likely be visiting our office pretty frequently throughout the year or the years that they're here at Northeastern. So it'll be a good place for them to know about and where we're located. Our office continuously advises international students on F1 student visa regulations to ensure they remain compliant with all the rules and regulations as dictated by the U.S. government. Additionally, we provide co-curricular, social, educational, and cross-cultural programming throughout the year for international and U.S. students. The ISSI is open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 most days. We do have evening hours, and those evening hours will change starting in the new semester, starting in late August. We also have office hours that are available for walk-in. You don't necessarily have to have an appointment, and those are called Counselor on Duty, or COD hours, between the hours of 10 and 4, Monday through Friday. So that just means that students can walk in during those hours if they have a quick question about their visa or about their I-20, and they don't necessarily need an appointment at that time.
The Office of Parent Programs and Services, we too are located in the L building, and our main function is to serve as a university liaison in communicating institutional policies and procedures. And we also develop and coordinate programs throughout the year. So what that means is one of the programs we're going to be talking about today is we have a parent and family orientation program. We plan Parents Weekend, and we communicate to you throughout the year electronically by doing some of these types of things in other ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have a very easy email address. It's parents@neu.edu, and we encourage you to email us at any time with your questions and concerns. We provide advocacy for your students and their families during this time of transition. So if ever you have any questions, maybe your student may be having difficulty with academics or a roommate or a housing issue, we encourage you to call the parent's office or email us, and we'll certainly help you and or your students. For Northeastern Parent Philosophy, it is our job to prepare your student for life after college, so we like to partner in this process. I know many of you may have heard the term helicopter parents. We like to think that we are embracing you in this process, so we encourage you as partners in this. By attending this video conference now and by coming to orientation and being part of our parent portal and different services, we think that by being a resource to your student, we're going to help them in their process. So many of you may not be aware, but FERPA is a Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and what that means, it limits universities and what universities and colleges can tell parents. So if you called my office and said, could you tell me how my student's doing academically, we have to have permission from your student. Before a student is over the age of 18, FERPA limits what we can tell you about your student. So I wanted to tell you that because what next thing we're going to be talking about is our parent portal. So our parent portal, I know many of you may not have signed on, but each of your students have a student portal. We want you all to be encouraged to have a parent portal. And what that means is our parent portal is how we're going to be communicating to you throughout the next several years. We provide information on like when deposits are due, campus news and information, and it's also a way of you viewing and paying bills. It's also can be used to add Husky funds to your students' accounts, and you can also view their grades and transcripts. You will not be able to view their midterm grades, only their final grades. So I say this about FERPA because what happens is, I'm going to show you our next slide, is about our parent portal and how you can log onto it and be connected to the university. So this is where what the parent portal looks like. I hope many of you are, like I said, have already created an account. We did send an email, but if not, you would go to myneu.edu and you would click on where the red highlighted area is, and you would click the red area. So once you click the red area, it's going to ask you several questions about you and your student, such as their birth date, your name, email address, and that type of thing. And what happens then is your student is going to get an email saying John Smith, for example, has asked permission to create a parent portal account. And what will happen is your student will receive the email and they have two choices. They can give you access to everything on the portal. That would mean campus information, paying the bills, and the grades. That's one choice. Or they can give you, the second choice would be paying the bills and campus information, and that you may not be able to see their grades. So we like to have this conversation because we hope that you will have a conversation with your student that will allow them to for you to have access to all this information. So once your student receives the email, you will create a username and password, and that is how you will log into the parent portal. It's not necessary to log into the portal every day. We update our information probably once every 2 weeks or so. But in the portal, I want to show you some screenshots of what it will look like and how you'll be able to use it. So once you log in, this is the first page that you'll see. As you see on the left-hand side, there are 3 tabs. One is the the Welcome tab, the Services tab, and the Resource tab. This is the Welcome page that you're seeing now. And on it, it gives you information on campus. Let's say we hired a new dean, it would be on this Welcome page. It also provides information on, maybe like highlight a student who's doing something on a co-op or studying abroad. That would also be on our Welcome page. The next tab is the Services tab, and this is probably where you'll be spending a little bit of time in the next couple months. This is where you can see your student's bill, and this is how you would pay your bill. You can also add funds to your student's Husky card. So their Husky card is their ID card that they'll use to get into the library, into their rooms, and they'll also use it to eat on campus. If you wanted to add $100 on the card so that they could use it, you would do this through our Services tab. So after the Services tab is our Resources tab, and this is our page where we have frequently asked questions. You might want to take a look at it to see some of the questions that might be of interest to you, and then we have our Campus Office tabs on the left-hand side. Every campus office is listed there with their telephone number and their website. And then, of course, we also have information on where you can stay when you're visiting Boston, helpful links to the academic calendars on the right, and area restaurants and museums, that type of thing. So we hope you will enjoy the portal. The parent portal is a little different than the student portal. Like the student portal, your student can view their grades all the time. They can see every transaction they do with their Husky card, but you will only be able to see their balances, like for instance, on their Husky card. So keep in mind, if you haven't already signed up to use the portal, please do so. Create one in the next several weeks so we can be able to communicate with you.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the next steps. So what you and your students can sort of be thinking about at this point in your preparations to come to Boston and attend orientation and start classes. And that next step really is orientation and international student orientation and new student orientation. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about those pieces at this point. Before I do that, I just wanted to remind you all about some of the important reminders about the ISSI and our functions specifically related to orientation. The ISSI is a resource for students staying on an F1 visa, and this resource is accessible all year round and during the entire student's time here at Northeastern. It is imperative that students pay close attention to all the information that is coming from the ISSI starting now and throughout the year. We are a resource, but there's lots of information that does come from the ISSI, helpful reminders, information about what they need to make sure to do before they travel internationally, things like this. So it is very important that you remind your student to be paying attention to the email information and the website from the ISSI. One important piece of email that will be coming soon is instructions on how to complete the mandatory online international student check-in process. The ISSI will be sending all new students, an email with instructions on how to complete this process. This will come to them in the coming weeks prior to them coming to orientation. I do want to make a quick note. I just have seen a message about students who might be U.S. citizens or holding dual citizenship. For those of you that are sending your students that are U.S. citizens, the International Student and Scholar Institute is not necessarily a relevant resource for them in terms of any kind of student visas. So the check-in process, the international student check-in process, is not necessary for U.S. citizens or dual citizens where U.S. citizenship is part of that. So please note, for those of you that are American citizens, the international student check-in process is not necessary. But I do encourage your student to get involved with our office, and the other programming that we do offer is American students are very welcome to our programs and activities, so please do join us for those. So a little bit about orientation itself, or International Student Orientation specifically. So August 25th, the ISSI provides complimentary airport welcome program on that day. That is also the day where international students and overseas students can move into the dorms. We pick up students from the international terminal and bring them to their residential halls and to other places on campus between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. that day. Parents are also very welcome to join their students on the shuttles that we're providing between the international terminal at Boston Logan Airport and campus. Registration is required, and it can be found on the ISSI website under the Travel to Boston section. As I mentioned, that this is also the day that the dorms open for our international student population. There will be housing staff and student volunteers to help the students get settled into their dorms, and a lot of support that day. It is a pretty busy day on campus, but you should be able to find all the support you need in terms of getting your student in on into his or her dorm. Also, please do mark your calendars for August 26th. This is going to be a full day of programming for overseas students and families. There will be an orientation program, an international orientation program for students, and there will be a separate program for our parent population, which will include a meeting other staff and other staff that can be serve as a resource for you as parents, as well as a student and parent panel. We will also be hosting a welcome barbecue lunch and a reception. The lunch will happen in the middle of the day, and the reception will happen at the end of the day. Some of you may have questions about the schedule of that day. Please note that the schedule is organized by student's last name, because we expect a large attendance that day. We've had to sort of break the day into half. So there will be a morning program and there will be an afternoon program, and you can find that schedule on the International Student and Scholar Institute under orientation schedule information. But that will give you an idea of the times and when you and your family, which session you and your family should attend. Generally speaking, I will say though, however, it's not necessarily going to be a full day. We will spend a couple of hours for the program both in the morning and the afternoon, and then there's, like I said, a lunch as well as a reception that evening. So for August 26th, it's what we're talking about right now. It's not necessarily a full day, but please do check the schedule on the website that's listed there on the screen under August 26th for more details about that. Susan's going to talk a little bit more about August 27th through the 29th, the programming available the program details for that. So she's going to, a little bit later on in this program, she will talk through the program starting August 27th through the 29th. And again, I know many of you are writing in your questions now. We're not going to be able to answer them all while we're doing this presentation, but we will be providing some time at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. So we appreciate your patience, and don't forget your questions. We will be answering them later at the end of this presentation.
So I know the next several weeks are going to be busy for you and your student. We want to offer some suggestions on how packing and preparing them for coming here to the United States. So we tell a little joke in orientation. Linens, you need to bring linens, and we always say 2 sets, one for the fall and one for spring, because they usually don't change their sheets too often. But with that, the linens, they do require extra long twin, and that's the type of bedding that will be provided. They do need to bring their own sheets, their own personal supplies, clothing, some towels, and bed sheets. We want to keep in mind that we are going to be doing, I know many of you are going to try to pack lightly, but we are going to be doing several shopping trips once your student arrives. The ISSI office will be doing one on August 25th and 26th, and we will be running shuttle buses down to Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, where your student can pick up any supplies or anything they forgot to bring. We will also be doing at the end of the week on August 29th, 30th, and 31st. So like I said, there will be plenty of opportunity for your sons or daughters to pick up anything that they did not bring with them. So if they are on any medication, please remember that they do need a 30-day supply. We do have a pharmacist not on campus, but about a mile off campus that your students can walk to. We want you to remember that many of your students are coming to Boston and are unsure of the weather conditions. When they arrive on campus in August, September can be usually pretty cool and still kind of hot in the 80s, that type of thing. But as the months go on until October, November, December, we tend to get very cold here, snow, so your students may want to prepare for bringing a winter coat or buying a winter coat when they get here. They should remember to bring layers, boots, that type of thing. So we'll keep in mind that we will offer several shopping trips, and there are several stores near campus to them. I know many of you probably have questions about books and how much spending money does my student need and that type of thing. Just to give you an overview, when your student arrives on campus and after they go through the orientation process, we have at the university called a welcome week, and that is a week-long week of introducing the students to the campus and different services that we provide. We do a lot of social events, barbecues, we do the trips to Target, as I mentioned. We're going to do picnics, that type of thing. So there'll be something for them to do almost every day of the week before classes start. There will be some mandatory events that they need to attend to on September 1 and 2, but in that other time they have a lot of time free that they can go and buy the additional supplies that they need. We always encourage our students to budget for books. We tell many students to wait till the first day of classes before they actually purchase the books, because the professors sometimes will say that they're using a different book or something like that. So additional living expenses on a campus is probably entertainment and if they're doing travel. Books tend to cost, it really varies on the major, so your students can either purchase their books at our Northeastern bookstore or they can rent them. Just to give you an example, if a book costs $200, a hard copy, the rental book is probably about $125. So, like I said, it varies major to major. Some of our sciences, of course, are a little bit more expensive, and your student would probably expect to spend about $500 to $600 per semester. And that's just an approximate. And then, as I said, we have a lot of things on campus. There's a lot of free programs for your students to do during the time here, but you have to keep in mind that they may want to go off and explore the city, and they'll need some funding for that. And, of course, travel, restaurants, trying out local restaurants, that type of thing.
So I'd like to spend a little time talking about the transition and the adjustment that your student is likely to experience when he or she after he or she gets settled into Northeastern. It's important that you as the parents, be aware of the changes that your student might be experiencing as they settle into their new life at Northeastern. There will be a transition period for you and your students as they adjust to life here in Boston. Here are some helpful tips on supporting your student through this transition. Keep in mind that many of the students will have to adjust to a new learning environment. And so there's going to be the way that the faculty and academic staff conduct the classrooms here at Northeastern, and generally speaking here in the United States, may be quite a different experience than what your student is used to back home. The classroom environment at Northeastern, and generally speaking in the U.S., is very much more interactive. Oftentimes there's discussions with the faculty members, there's even little debates that happen between between students and their peers. So this is something to keep in mind. Classroom engagement and classroom interaction is very much expected in the classroom here. Faculty members do expect that the students be participating actively in the classroom. So just something for you and your student to talk a little bit about as they prepare for their classes here. But it is important that you as parents allow time for this adaptation and this change that your student may be going through. Make sure to encourage your students to use on-campus resources. Northeastern has wonderful resources available to students who might be having a little bit of a hard time academically maybe. You're going to learn a lot about these resources at orientation, but a couple just to mention here. All students have an academic advisor that they can use as they're discussing certainly their class schedule, but beyond that, if they're having a hard time in a classroom, and that academic advisor can give helpful tips and recommendations on what the student can do to work through those challenges. We have writing centers, we have tutoring centers. There's loads of campus resources available. If the student is feeling especially stressed or having hard times, having sleep problems because of the academic stress, there's a wonderful resource in the University Health and Counseling Center as well. So just to know that there are resources available for your student as they're sort of making this adjustment. It is also encouraged that the student speak to his or her faculty, his professor, if he or she is having some difficulty in the class. Faculty member or the teaching assistant may have some really helpful tips on what the student can do to work through those challenges. As a parent, it's important that you understand that your student, living far from home, sometimes they may get a little lonely or be a little homesick, but the university is definitely set up to address and to encourage social interaction on campus. As Susan mentioned, there's loads of free programming that happens all year round, campus-wide, and really great opportunities for the students to get involved on campus. So making sure that you encourage your students to get engaged, get involved on campus. We have loads of student organizations, cultural and academic based student organizations. There's the student government associations, the students can get involved. We have lots of cultural centers, the International Student and Scholar Institute. My office provides a lot of programming throughout the year. We have a Center for Spirituality, Dialogue, and Service on campus. And even in the dorms, in the students' housing, they have lots of programs and support services available within the dorms themselves. A couple of things to think about as you're preparing your student to leave home, and you anticipate maybe some homesickness. Maybe you miss your son or daughter also. Maybe start planning when you'd like to do set up Skype sessions. Maybe you plan a Skype session on Tuesday nights or something like this. Plan your holidays and vacations so your student is prepared when he or she wants to travel home. So just a couple of things to consider as you're preparing. If your son or daughter the ISSI is definitely a resource for your son or daughter should he or she have some challenges. So please do encourage your student to come and see us. So we're going to talk a little bit about the residence halls on campus. Living in residence halls is a great way to meet people. Most of the halls plan social and co-curricular programming to foster community and have very helpful support programs. It is important to remind your son or daughter as they're living on campus that you are living with people that you don't necessarily, these will be new friends that you make, but you don't know them right away. So it's important for the student to be respectful of others. Your son or daughter will be meeting students coming from all over the world with different backgrounds and different ways of doing things and seeing the world. Many of the dorms are co-educational, co-ed living, which means that there are males and females in the residence halls, not living together in one room, but there are mixed floors where there are males and females living in the residence hall. It's important to maybe encourage your student to have a conversation earlier on with their roommate to kind of start setting some ground rules about how they'd like to live together. So some students are maybe a little more, they like a tidy room and a tidy living space. Who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to do what chores? So these are important conversations to have early, so you can kind of get a sense of, laying some of the ground rules and expectations for when the students do move in together. If you have any questions about housing or your housing assignment or anything related to the housing situation on campus, you're welcome to email housing@neu.edu. And finally, some information about campus resources. This is just a quick list, and it's certainly not an exhaustive list of some of the programs and offices on campus that your students will can access. You'll have the opportunity, you and your student will have the opportunity to learn more about these programs and offices when you attend new student orientation later this month. But I'm going to highlight just a couple here on the list. University Health and Counseling Center is one of those that Susan's going to talk a little bit about in just a few minutes. The Office for Student Involvement, this is an office that manages all the student organizations on campus, student government, and they plan a lot of campus-wide programming throughout the year. And again, I mentioned before, the Center for Spirituality, Dialogue, and Service plans wonderful interfaith programs and maintains an interfaith multifunction room for yoga, meditation, and prayer space, as well as other educational and social programs for the whole campus community.
So as Amy mentioned, I'm going to spend a little time talking about health insurance. Just so you all know, we have a University Health and Counseling Center on campus. So if your son or daughter was ever ill, they could go to that health center to be treated, and it's located right on campus. So healthcare in the United States is paid for on a fee-for-service basis. While the United States in general and Boston in particular have a global reputation for exceptional health care, that care can be very costly. Well, how do you know? We are located near some of the best hospitals in the country right now, so your students will be well taken care of. So in accordance with Massachusetts regulations, your student will automatically be enrolled in Northeastern University's Health Benefits Program, and that's called NUSHP, N-U-S-H-P, each academic year. The cost of coverage will be included in your bill. You do have the option to waive this coverage, but only if you can provide proof that you are covered by a plan that has health benefits that meet Massachusetts regulations. So at this time, we are going to show you a quick video about health care at our University Health and Counseling Center.
Give us just a minute to upload that video.
We kid that we wish we could come to Northeastern University and get the student health plan instead of the employee health plan.
I come from Georgia, which is a small country near Russia and Turkey, near Black Sea. It's a beautiful country.
My name is Grace Zheng. I'm from China.
The best part about coming to Northeastern is the diversity of students. Getting to know a lot of people and getting to know about the different perspectives they might have.
Really feeling this environment rather than just some academic life here.
Health insurance is sometimes a very difficult topic to make relevant and interesting to our students.
My parents' plan is so complicated. While the case of Northeastern University's student health plan, you just get to make a one call and you will be taken care of.
You are working with a population of students who are at a critical point in their lives. They are coming from all over the world doing things that are incredibly interesting. The care that you give can be so important to how they do academically and for the rest of their lives.
University Health and Counseling Services here on campus is available to all of our students for regular, urgent care and preventative care. The plan is a PPO plan, which means that you can be seen by almost any provider you want to, either in-network or out-of-network.
Any kind of specialist that you might need to see.
There are no deductibles for services rendered in-network. There's coverage for dental care, there's coverage for vision care, there's low-cost co-pays for your prescription needs.
Sometimes you need to figure out for which person you need to ask some kind of questions. So I think the health center is kind of the good information resource, convenient for me as a newcomer here. So
They have a plan that will cover them wherever they go around the country, that will reimburse them for costs that they incur outside of the United States.
At home, on vacation, in classes in Boston, or studying abroad in Thessaloniki, Greece.
The fact that the insurance travels with you was an amazing opportunity for me because I plan to go to summer study abroad.
I will go to Turkey and Greece for international field study because this is the mandatory part of my MBA.
I don't need to get an additional insurance and it is so convenient.
We're told by our partners in the community that they will take Northeastern students because the new SHIP plan is so good.
And I don't have to worry about referrals. I don't have to worry about them incurring a giant bill because they're out of network.
Better services, more services at a lower cost.
The plan has a reputation now. I can send them down the street, and in a day or two, often, I can have them see a specialist in getting the care that they need.
The idea that I have someone to talk to about my health problems is just amazing. There is 9-hour difference between Georgia and Boston, so we don't have a lot of chance of talking about the issues that concern me.
Although I'm alone here, I don't have families and relatives here, I still can feel myself being taken care of. It's very convenient for my life, and at the same time it gives me a feeling of security.
I wish all the students had it. I do.
Northeastern's plan is probably one of the best in the country.
They're doing something right, and I want them to keep doing it.
This card is so small, but provides so many benefits.
To give them the care that I would give my own family is what I expected to be able to do, and is the best part of my job.
Good feeling about the life in the U.S.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining us for that video. If you had problems seeing that video or watching that video, I did post the link in the chat feature just a few minutes ago. I'll post it again right here. You can reference it later after this presentation is over. There's the link again for the video that we just showed. So if you do have problems, feel free to check it out later. So we just have a couple more information, a couple more slides to go, and then we'll move on to your questions. We know you have lots of questions. But these are some just helpful, quick reminders about how you as parents can stay connected to the university and to its resources as well as to your students. The portal, Susan already has gone through the information about the portal, and again, when we do email the presentation out, you will have that information available to you again later. The parent handbook, as you see listed here on the slide, this is something that will be emailed to parents later in August. So that is something that you'll be able to reference at a later time. And the parent message board, it's on the Northeastern website, the Northeastern parent website, and under the tab Stay Connected. These are some important dates to think about for this upcoming year. Please do have a look at these dates. We've mentioned a few of them already. The ISSI Airport Welcome is on August 25th, as well as Move-In. The International Student Orientation and Welcome Program for Overseas Families is August 26th. And just a quick note, because I know some of you mentioned you were U.S. citizens. If you are U.S. citizens, U.S. families living abroad, this International Student Orientation and Welcome Program is open to you all as well. Not all of the information that we provide on that day will be specifically relevant only to students who are coming on an F1 international student visa. There is other information that's relevant to both U.S. citizens living abroad as well as international students. Just a note to say about that. And again, new student and parent orientation begins August 27th and 28th, or August 29th if the student is transferring in from another school. Parents Weekend, which is a really wonderful event that happens in October, is a great opportunity for parents to come and see how their students are getting along. We also have Homecoming And then these are some helpful dates at the end about finals and the breaks, the winter breaks and other vacation periods that we have on campus. So these are just some quick websites and other pieces of information that you can find that might be helpful to you. The airport welcome and registration is available on the ISSI website. A quick note for those of you coming or getting ready for orientation, the ISSI will be emailing. You should expect a couple of emails next week, actually, specifically about International Student Orientation. The student email will go out on August 4th, and parents should expect to receive something as well later next week. So please do keep that in mind. There's also the orientation schedule, and we'll post these links up later as well so you can access them later. And again, this presentation will be emailed to parents later this month. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions and answers. We do have quite a few questions already that have been typed through in the chat box. So we're going to try and do our best in the remaining 10 minutes or so to answer as many questions as possible. But again, if for whatever reason, I'm sorry, if for whatever reason we don't get to your questions, please do email us at parents@neu.edu. And just a quick note on this slide, the Q&A, the presentation will not be posted on the website, but will be emailed to you all. So I apologize for that mistake on that slide. So let's get to some of these questions here. Just give us a second as we scroll through some of the questions. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the questions I saw was about buying books when I was talking about books. It is recommended that when your sons or daughters come on campus, they're going to be going through the orientation session, and at that time, they're going to meet with their academic advisor who assists them in choosing their classes. So we recommend them not buy their books till after they go to their first day of classes.
So the questions are coming in pretty quickly, so we're going to try and stay. Changing courses later is possible or not, one of you wrote in. Changing courses is possible for some students. This question actually depends very much on the academic program, but I will say that during orientation in late August, your son and daughter will have the opportunity to meet with their academic advisor, and so conversations about their schedules and the possibilities of changing the schedule will be discussed at that time. But again, it depends on the academic program. Some of the academic programs are pretty rigorous and follow a very specific schedule, so there may not be a lot of flexibility initially. So just keeping that in mind. The schedule and all of that information, the student's class schedule and all that information will be addressed at New Student Orientation.
Someone's asking the courses showing on your student panel, is that the courses that they will be taking? Many of your students may have already pre-registered and selected some of their courses that they'll be taking. So that is, if it is on their portal, that is some of the classes they'll be taking, but they will finalize their schedule on the last day of their orientation session and meet with their academic advisor. Each student is assigned an academic advisor that they will work with during their time here at Northeastern.
And again, these questions about, you know, the credits being transferred, that information, again, that will be addressed with your academic advisor during orientation. Some of you are asking about bank accounts and credit cards and even cell phones, maybe a question. During orientation, we will have bank companies as well as cell phone companies available that'll be here on campus so that your son or daughter can maybe open a bank account, a local bank account, or even get a cell phone here. So that is something that is going to be made available to you all during orientation. Let's see. A couple of questions about housing. If you do have questions about your housing, assignment, roommates, assignments, changing dorms, please do contact specifically housing@neu.edu. We Susan and I, unfortunately, don't have a lot of authority, I guess you could say, about in terms of changing assignments and things. So it's better to go directly to housing if you have questions about the room housing assignment, or your roommate.
Several of you have asked what would happen if you don't get along with your roommate. At Northeastern, we ask that you stay in the room for 2 weeks. They will not allow you to change rooms for about 2 weeks, and then if the student truly is unhappy, they can work with the housing office to have that changed. It may take a little while. But keep in mind, in the residence halls, we have what we call RDs. Those are residence hall directors that your students can work with and talk with any problems. And then we have RAs, which is a resident assistant. They're Northeastern students who will work with your students if they ever have any problems or have any questions. They also plan programming to keep them involved. So housing is very accommodating. And like Amy said, you can email housing@neu.edu. Someone has just asked about emergency contact information. During my presentation, I failed to mention that when your student comes on campus, they have to go through a process called I Am Here, and that's verifying their enrollment and saying they're here and ready to start classes. Before they can do anything else and get into that I Am Here, they have to complete emergency contact information, and that requires them to give 2 cell phones or email addresses, that type of thing, that we can contact someone in case of an emergency.
Some of you are asking questions about the schedule starting with August 25th, and I want to just address that, and even some of you are asking about where to go on those days. So for August 25th, the dorms, the housing will be open, meaning the students can move in right away to those dorms. So if you're asking where should you go straight to the housing assignment that your son or daughter has been given, and there will be a check-in desk at those residence halls where staff will be able to check your student in, and you can move into the dorm into the room at that time. So just keep that in mind. You go straight to your residence hall that day. For the 26th, the schedule, some of you have asked where to go for that. The schedule is posted on the International Student and Scholar Institute website under orientation schedule. Again, we'll send these links along with the presentation next week that we've referenced in the presentation. But the schedule begins for the first group at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and most of the sessions are located in the Curry Student Center. And the afternoon session, those of you attending the afternoon session, will be in the same spaces. But again, that information is up on the link that Lindsay just posted.
Please keep in mind, our orientation program is not mandatory for the parents. Several people ask, what if I'm not coming? That is why we're kind of doing this webinar, so that we can answer a lot of the questions and assist you with your students' transition. So keep in mind, it is not mandatory for the parents to attend. We hope you will, but if unfortunately you can't and you have further questions, email us at parents@neu.edu.
And for where to go for the new student orientation that Susan was just mentioning, the check-in will begin on August 27th at 7 a.m. in the Curry Student Center.
We had just sent an email to all students who will be attending that August session during that time, so they'll have instructions of where to go and what time to check in.
Yeah. And somebody asked about will the student and the parents have some free time during orientation. There is some free time. On August 25th, once you move into your dorm, we have some shopping trips available for people to access if they want to. But once you move into your hall on the 25th, you can do what you want with your time. August 26th, again, is International Student Orientation, and there is a morning session or an afternoon session, depending on the last name of the student. So there may be some free time there, but we do have some activities like shopping trips and campus tours available for you and the students. So please feel free to use those as well.
If a student is arriving before the 25th, we really recommend that you contact the housing office and give them your son or daughter's information, and they will email you back if it's possible to move in earlier than the 25th. So you would email housing@neu.edu.
Mm-hmm. One of you or a couple of you may have questions about if whether or not it's easier to open a bank account or cell phone before orientation. If you are available and here days before orientation and you have some free time to set that up, of course, that's probably easier. It's, you know, a couple of things that you don't have to worry about during orientation. We do recommend that you use some of the banks and cell phone companies that are closer to campus, and that is only just to say because the companies near campus are familiar with the student population on campus, and also just easier access. So just to keep that in mind. Other questions? Someone wrote in earlier asking if, let's see.
I know several of you had mentioned that you were having trouble with your parent portal account creating it. I did see that question a few times. If you email us at parents@NEU, I will give you instructions, but one of the easiest fixes may be on your student's acceptance letter. They were issued a number, and if you try the last 4 digits of that number, I think that will assist you in creating the account. But if you do have trouble, email us and I will see how we can assist you.
Some of you have asked questions about what you need in terms of for those of you that are not U.S. citizens, and your students are not U.S. citizens, and what you need to do to get into the country. So you will need the student will need his or her I-20 form from Northeastern University, as well as their passport with the visa stamp. So do keep that in mind. Those things should be on your student as he or she comes through the U.S. Borders. It's important that maybe before you leave, have your son or daughter make copies of those official documents and leave maybe a set of copies at home with you, just in case something were to happen. If they misplace their I-20 or their passport, it makes it a little bit easier to get those things reprinted.
So we are out of time right now, but we really do, Amy and I really appreciate you attending this webinar today with us. We're looking forward to greeting your students and any parents who will be coming later in the month. And we want to welcome you to Northeastern. We're so glad that you would join this community. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to email us or call us. We look forward to working with you and your student in the next several years. So again, welcome to Northeastern, and we look forward to seeing your students soon.
Yep, thank you very much. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon. And did you mention emailing at parents? Mm-hmm. If you do have questions, please feel free to email us with further questions, and be looking for a copy of this presentation in your email very soon. Thanks so much.